Okay, gang, I'm just going to now solve a couple examples with you. I wrote down 2, and then I'm just going to sort of see what you guys send me and you want me to help you out with. Because you really learn it when you do it. It's like, to me, it sort of reminds me of a sport. Like, I can watch somebody play basketball or soccer, but I don't actually know how to play basketball or soccer until I shoot the ball or kick the ball. You have to sort of get it in you have to do it yourself to actually understand it. So let me give you 2 more so you can get an idea, and then when you get in there and you start trying out the problems, just let me know what's not, what you want me to go over in more detail and explain. All right, gang, so I'm going to take the derivative of this, and so since it's a fraction, I'm going to use the quotient rule. And it's got a radical hanging out in it. So remember, if you have a radical, you want to rewrite that. And I'm particularly picking this one because the algebra with the radicals is a little bit fancier. So some people might want to see how that's done. All right, so here we go. I'm doing the quotient rule on this guy. This is F, this is J. So the first rule to the quotient rule is you take the bottom, so this is the bottom, the denominator, you times it by the derivative of the numerator. So now I have to take the derivative of that. So derivative of that by the power rule is 1/2 x squared, sorry, 1/2 x to the negative 1/2. I'm using the power rule. So the bottom times the derivative of the top minus, remember there's a minus in this one. Now I leave the numerator alone, so that's F, and I'm going to times it by the derivative of the denominator. Now the derivative of the denominator is going to be 2x, right? Power rule on that, this guy goes to 0. And that's all over, and I could put it in a box, the denominator squared. Now, students know mnemonics for these rules, and that never sticks in my head, but there are mnemonics you can learn. I can't remember what it was. It was something like high D low, low D high. I don't know, but there are things you can learn to help you memorize this. They're probably on, like if you Google a video, they're probably somewhere floating around. Okay, gang, I'm now going to take out the common factor. And if you notice, 1/2 isn't a common factor, but you cannot leave your answer as a complex fraction. You cannot have a fraction within a fraction. So even though that guy isn't a common factor, I'm going to have to force that out. I know a lot of you are visual, so I'll just start writing it, and then I can re-explain it as you're looking at it. So you have to pull the 1/2 out, even though this guy doesn't have a half. And if it's easier for some people's brains, this is 2x to the 3/2, because you have 1 plus a half is 3/2. But even before that, you probably can tell that this is a common factor for x because these are higher than that. Remember, when you go with the common factor, it's always the lowest exponent. So this is the lowest exponent. I'd like to put a bracket here. It's up to you guys. All right, we're going to have too many brackets floating around. Let me just knock that one off. Leave it like that. Okay, so I'm now going to figure out what my leftovers are. So I have to figure out the leftover from the front half of the numerator and the leftover from the back half of the numerator. All right, so for the front half, I took out this, so I just have this left. There's a minus sign in the middle. I got to be really careful about that. Now I'm going to figure out what's left from the back half. It just depends how you want to do it. I think combine's the easiest way to start this. Now this doesn't have a half, so you actually have to take a half out of this, and by a half I mean you'd have to do 2 divided by a half. The answer is going to be 4, and if you don't see that, most brains are better at doing this backwards, meaning like 1/2 times what is 2. Most of us do this better backwards, like 1/2 times something is 2, so the something has to be 4 to give you that. And this part's a little confusing, so remember how you do this from pre-calc. This line's like the bank. This is the withdrawal. It's the bank, what's in your bank minus the withdrawal. The withdrawal is confusing because the withdrawal, you're subtracting a negative. All right, so let me just write that out because some people aren't going to hear what I'm saying. They have to see it. You're starting with 3/2. You're doing 3/2. You're taking away. Remember, common factor is a subtraction. You're subtracting -1/2. This happens to be negative, which is counterbalancing my negative to make it a positive. So it's 4/2 or 2. All right. I know that's tough. You're going to have to practice that. And I've given you a good amount of opportunities in your homework to do that. And I can help you. You just shoot me whichever one you're stuck on. I'll take a look at it. All right, so that's going to end up leaving you a 2. So what I'm calculating here is when I do this guy minus this guy, I get that. This is me calculating the new exponent. All right, if it makes you feel better, that's the painful part right there. Most students, that's where the Band-Aid gets ripped off. All right, the rest of it's a little nicer. You're going to find that the algebra and calculus is what's difficult. The calculus, most people can hop on board with the calculus. All right, a couple things here. Multiplying by 1/2 is the same thing as dividing by 2. So it's sort of like just bring this 2 down here. If I totally confused you, I will say that one more time. 1/2 x is the same thing as x over 2. 1/2 x or anything. Maybe not use x because people are going to think I mean that x, which I don't. That has a negative exponent. Let's say 1/2 a. That is the same thing as a over 2. All right, so when you multiply by something, that's the same thing as dividing. When you multiply by a fraction, that's the same thing as dividing by that denominator. All right, do you guys remember from intermediate algebra, if you have a negative exponent, that means you have to flip it to the other side, right? So this guy's gonna move down to the bottom floor. Oh, my neighborhood's getting a little noisy now. All right, so we're gonna flip this down. So now it's hanging out here. It's making a new friend. And I'm almost done. We just have to combine this the best we can. So this is a like term. This is second degree and second degree. So I have 1 minus 4 of this, which is negative 3x squared plus 3. Now I would make that full credit. That's absolutely full credit. Some of you are looking at that and thinking, I'm going to fiddle with that a little bit more. That may be you. And you notice if you fiddle with it a little bit more, it likes that. Okay, this is for the fiddlers. I'm getting in the fiddler mode, which can go on and on and on. But so now my fiddlers are like, oh, let's keep going. So again, I'm going to circle this just because I don't want the people to freak out that are like, oh my gosh, this keeps going. That would be full credit. But for my fiddlers, I will indulge. Occasionally I will fiddle too here. So this, like the really prettiest form for this one, right, that's very nice. And this, if we were solving with this, you would want to break this down as far as you could. Again, but again, this is fine because this is totally reduced. Once the fraction's totally reduced, I'm pretty good with it, okay? I don't want you to get stressed out so much about the algebra because we're really focusing on the calculus, but the algebra is important because the algebra enables you to be able to solve it once we start doing applications of this stuff. All right, in terms of this homework, this is definitely longer than the other sections, so get into it, get ahead of it. Yeah, get on this one. This one is going to take a bit of time. You don't want to do this all in one sitting. You'll be there a while. All right, gang, I'll catch you. I hope you have a good time with this lecture. This is a fun section. I'll catch you. Bye-bye.